You are listening to the Bat Flip Podcast, a baseball podcast from Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Damian and Matt.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Bat Flip Podcast. My name is Damian, and I'm here with my co-host, Matt. How's it going?
Pretty good. I've been watching some baseball this week. It's been awesome, and doing a little bit of football watching this weekend too. Since there's no baseball on, and of course my Auburn Tigers were a little bit of a mess yesterday, so that wasn't good. But I've got my mind back on baseball now, so that's makes me a lot happier.
Yeah, I went for a help my buddy on his race car this weekend, and that did not go very well either. We came away with a totaled race car, so
Yeah.
nothing more that I can look forward to than some more postseason baseball, because this postseason has been insane, even through just one series.
Absolutely. It's been fun so far.
Yeah, so if we just look back at what our predictions were, it was not good. Um, we both picked the Rays. They moved on. We both picked the White Sox, and they did not move on. We both picked the Twins. They did not move on
Or win a game.
or win a game. You picked the Yankees, while I picked the Indians, and the Yankees are moved on. We both picked the Reds against your Braves, and they didn't win a game, so Atlanta moves on there. We both picked the Padres, so they did move on. We both picked the Cubs, and the Marlins moved on, even though we did hit on the Marlins about being a sneaky contender. And then we both picked the Dodgers, and they moved on as well. So our predictions were not that great for this wild card series.
No, they were. Well, they were okay. I mean, for me at least, I got 5 out of 8, so I got over 50%. But I mean, I can't say the same for you picking the Indians. But um,
Oh, Shane Bieber.
yeah, that was rough. But yeah, I mean, it was three. We talked about all year. You get into these 3 game series in the wild card, and I mean, anything can happen just because of the nature of playing a shortened series. You have the ball bounces a couple, a different way a couple times, and you end up with a completely different team. A couple teams had pretty dominant performances in their series, which was really impressive. The Dodgers were pretty dominant over the Brewers. The Braves were dominant over the Reds. I mean, but then you look the other way around at some of these series like the Padres and the Cardinals. The Padres, I think, were very easily the better, more talented roster and the better team. But the ball bounced the Cardinals' way a few times, and if it bounced their way one more time, they probably would have won the series. So it was a very entertaining wild card week. You had a couple game threes that were fun, close games, some history in the making on these series. You had teams that break pitching records. A lot of good pitching, and not so great hitting in these series. Outside of the Yankees Indians game one, in which you had the best pitcher in baseball all year get absolutely rocked. Um, so it was fun. We'll go through. I'm ready to dive into it. Go through each one real quick, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, let's just start with the Tampa Bay. We'll just go from the American League down, and then we'll jump over to the National League. We'll start with that Tampa Bay Blue Jays series. We said it was going to be fun to see Bo Bichette and Kevin Biggio and Vlad Guerrero in the postseason. And I'll tell you what, the Tampa Bay Rays pitching said it will not be fun to watch them because we are going to take care of them very quickly. They won the first game 3-1 with behind Blake Snell, their previous Cy Young winner. He had a fantastic game one start, and then their second game they won 8-2 to advance on and just lit up Hyunjin Ryu. Gave up, I think he gave up what 6 in the second inning.
I think
What?
so. There was a bad Bo Bichette error in there too that really hurt them, and then they gave up a grand slam to Hunter Renfro. So I mean, I was shocked at game two at Hyunjin Ryu getting lit up like that. I expected him with his postseason experience. He had a great year in Toronto this year, his first year there. I expected him to pitch a really good game and to, potentially force, if their offense could help him a little bit, potentially force a third game in that series, but that was a disastrous start. And the we talked about in a lot of these cases, these young teams coming into postseason, not a lot of experience, and which ones are going to come in and play like they have been there before, play experienced, and which ones are going to come in and feel that pressure. And the Blue Jays, you could tell a lot of their young players felt that pressure because making a bad error like Bo Bichette made is not Bo Bichette like. He's a great player. I mean, you've got you know a lot of whiffs at the plate. They just didn't seem ready for the moment. So, and that's to be expected when you have a lot of young teams in the postseason. That you're going to have some teams that aren't ready for the moment, and the Blue Jays have a lot of young players. They'll be back for sure. And I mean, the Rays, that pitching is really good. They looked great. Blake Snell, pitched. I think he pitched 6 innings. He got a lot of strikeouts. Their
Looks like
bullpen,
it
their
was
bullpen looks really good.
5 2/3 with 9 strikeouts.
Yeah, so it's 5 2/3 and 9 strikeouts. I mean, that's a really good line for him. If you can get the game into the seventh inning with the bullpen that the Rays have, you're in pretty good shape there. So
Yeah, it was, Tampa Bay, number 1 seed, and they really just came out and asserted themselves right
yep,
away. I mean, when you got guys like Manny Marco and Randy Rosarena
yep,
um, doing the damage for you, those aren't guys you expect to beat you
yeah,
from the Tampa Bay, and they really had very good series. So,
yep. So
and that Blue Jays pitching, it's very shocking, like you said, to see Hyun-Jin Ryu. But we also noted that their depth behind Ryu was not great in their
yeah,
rotation, and that
so
very well showed.
yeah, it did. But I mean, like I say, the Blue Jays, good for them on making it this year. They had a good year, pretty good team. I mean, going up against the team as good as the Rays in that situation, the pressure probably got to them, but that's to be expected with a young team like that. And I think we can put a wrap on this series by just saying that the Rays are as good as advertised, and they took care of business.
Yep, pretty much.
So
Well, we'll jump over to the Oakland White Sox series, where this one went to a game 3. It really looked the way Lucas Giolito came out, and he had a no hitter or a perfect
perfect
game
game into the seventh inning. Yep.
into the 7th inning. Yeah, and then wasn't it La Stella that broke it up?
Yeah, Listella singled up the middle to break it
Yeah.
up. Lucas Giolito looked fantastic. This was a pretty entertaining series. With all the series going on, I didn't get to catch every moment of this one, but I watched a pretty decent amount. And I mean, the starting pitching was good for game one for the White Sox. Giolito pitched well. I thought Jesus Luzardo looked pretty good in game one. He gave up some runs, but I really thought his stuff looked really good. He got a lot of swings and misses. It just happened that the White Sox ran into a couple of home run balls. We saw one of the most impressive moments of this postseason when Luis Robert hit that 485-foot home run. I believe that was in game two, maybe.
Was
Um,
it game 2?
I don't remember if it was game one or game two, but that was really impressive. And then the White Sox ended up they missed some opportunities, and they ended up having the injury bug bit them. Game three, I think their plan was they started Dane Dunning, but I think their plan was to go to Crochet, Garrett Crochet, the rookie fireballer out of Tennessee.
Yeah.
They expected to go to him pretty quickly in that game, and they did. And then he got pulled from the game after 1 inning, not because he was struggling or anything. He actually looked spectacular. I think he had 2 or 3 strikeouts and when he was pitching, but then he got injured, and then he got pulled out of the game, and that really hurt the White Sox because I think they were planning on him giving them 2 or 3 innings, and he looked really good. And then Eloy Jimenez also went down in Game Three, so that's a bummer for the White Sox. I know they had a good year. It's their first playoff appearance since I believe it was 2008 was their last one. Um, they were a really good team, and they just needed a little bit more starting pitching. Keuchel didn't look great in the postseason. He had a bad start. Um, I mean, I think they could use some more starting pitching depth on that team, and if they get that, their bullpen is pretty decent, and their lineups got a potential to be lethal moving forward. So it's a good season. There's no shame in losing to the A's in 3 games, especially in the circumstances that they had. And the A's, they finally got the monkey off their back a little bit. They had been struggling in the postseason, losing wild card games the last 2 or 3 years, and that was a really good, really impressive for the A's to come in and without their best player be able to take that series over and win it. You look forward for them going into the ALDS. You would like to see their starting pitching be a little bit better. You'd like to see Luzardo maybe limit the mistakes just a little bit. He gave up a couple home run balls. You'd also like to see the your the manager. You like to see him start Frankie Montas because I thought he looked really good too. So
Yeah, that was a questionable decision to start
mhm.
Mike Fiers. I mean,
Yeah,
we were talking about Mike Fiers to Sean Manaea,
yeah,
and then I look later because I haven't been able to watch these games because they happen a lot of the time when I'm at work. So
yeah,
I'm trying to listen on my phone as best as I can. But I happened to glance one time, just wanted to check up on the score, and I see Montas is on in relief, and I'm like, well, if Montas is available, why didn't you start him over Mike Fiers even?
yeah,
Um, but like you said, the White Sox, it's good to see them get that monkey off their back for a little bit, get to the postseason. I expect they're going to get more starting pitching depth. You're going to have Kopech coming back. Rodon will have another offseason to get healthy, and hopefully he could finally break out like everybody says he will. Another year of Dane Dunning.
yeah,
Who's their other? Dylan Cease, if he
yeah.
gets another year under
Maybe
his
get
belt.
Kopech coming back.
Yeah,
So
and they're going to be a team to watch out for on that starting pitching market. I could see somebody like I think isn't like Taiwan Walker a free agent after this year. I could
Taiwan
see
Walker's a
them.
free agent. James Paxton's a free agent. You've got several guys that you could have. You could maybe take a chance on, and obviously they have a bona fide ace already, so
Yeah, they
that's the
don't.
hardest thing to get. They could use adding a veteran starter, kind of like they did with Keuchel this year, and hope that their other guys develop a little bit, and also hope that their other guys stay healthy. I mean that was a problem for them. The guys like
Yeah,
Rodon and obviously Kopech not being able to stay healthy, but that was a fun series, and then it just it was tough. It was tough for the White Sox, but I think we all can agree that the A's are a good team. They got a lot of pieces, great bullpen. They'll be good moving forward. So, guess we can move on and look at the A's and the Twins. I mean, the Astros and the Twins series now. That was an interesting one for sure.
yeah. Greinke. I mean, in Game One, Greinke didn't look that great. I mean, he didn't look terrible, but they finally got to him in that fourth inning, and he gave up. I think it was like 3 walks in that inning. And he just was getting. He didn't look as precise as Zach Greinke does.
Yeah,
And we really thought once the Twins scored that run, like Kenta Maeda was really
yeah,
he
he
was
looked good for a
he
while.
looked really good, but his pitch count got up there really high, so he got to 5 innings and he had to get pulled. And the star of this game one is Famber Valdez. We
Oh
talked
my
about him as
gosh, he looked
being a
great.
we talked about him about being a possible like maybe game two or game three starter for them, and they brought him out of the pen and he went 5 innings, uh, shutout ball, striking out five, only giving up 2 hits, and pretty much just kept that Astros lineup in the game, which we talked about. If their pitching could really keep them in a game, their offense is really starting to come around, and they finally proved that. I mean, they got to that really good Twins bullpen.
Yeah, and this was a rough series for the Twins. They came in and having not won a postseason game in out of their last 16 coming into the series, and I think that pressure might have gotten to them a little bit. They had a really good year, but there were a lot of things that happened to them right before the postseason. They lost Josh Donaldson to a calf injury, which is really really worrisome for the Twins because Josh Donaldson was lost to a injury back in, believe it was 2018 with the Blue Jays before he got traded, and he came. That's the injury that kept him out most of the year. So that's really worrisome if you're the Twins because they have him signed for I think 3 more years. So is he going to be able to stay healthy and stay durable? Because this is now a recurring injury. But I mean, losing him was a big deal. I mean, this is a Twins team that I think that pressure got to them a little bit, like some other teams we've seen struggle in the postseason. They they got let late in these games, and I mean, you know, they've struggled. They walked in a run to win the game on in game one, I believe. I believe it's the one they walked in the run. Um, I mean, it was they gave up a home run to Correa in game two that kind of put the game away. They just never, and at the plate, they just never could put it together all the way. I mean, they had some hits, they got on base some. They had their opportunities. They just, I mean, it was just a struggle for them, in these clutch situations, and they didn't do well with runners in scoring position. And the Astros were able to take advantage of that with their postseason experience we talked about coming in. Um, I, I'm pretty surprised that the Twins struggled as bad as they did in this series. Because I really didn't believe that the Astros had the pitching to match up. But hey, I mean, if Framber Valdez looks like that, I mean, the Astros have two arms, and with Zach Greinke being the other. Even though Zach Greinke did not look great in September either, it's something I didn't really notice until I started watching the telecast for the game. He had really struggled in September to like a 6+ ERA, and he didn't look good in Game One. So the Astros are going to really need for Zach Greinke to be Zach Greinke and not September 2020 Zach Greinke. And then they're going to need to have these other guys step up and continue to pitch well. I mean, Framber Valdez looks so good. He probably will end up starting in the division series if I had to guess in one of the games. And then Urquidy looked decent, and Lance McCullers will be around. So, um, they could put up a fight in the division series if their offense, is continuing to play pretty well. And um, we'll see what happens with that. That was very interesting, and I mean, I feel bad for the Twins because they just seem to they cannot get their monkey off their back. They cannot win a postseason game, and it's really sad to see because they've had some really good teams the last few years, and they just haven't been able to do it. And this year you like their chances a lot because they had two really good starters throwing on in the first in game one and two. They have a good offense. You would think that they would be able to take advantage, but combination of having the injury and then just some bad luck in a short series, as well as having you know just some mishaps. So that error. Oh, and the one thing that I didn't mention was the error on Polanco really changed that series. So if that error doesn't happen in game one, I think the Twins win game one, which I think that takes a lot of the pressure off. You saw that a lot in this postseason in this wild card series. Game one was so important. So
Yeah, and another guy that really shined for Houston too was Christian Javier. Even he came out of the bullpen in game two and he pitched three shutout innings with two
yeah,
strikeouts. We really said that Houston pitching staff would be their weak point, and it really turned out to be their
yeah,
strong point in this one. And with losing Josh Donaldson, he's somebody that just brings that swagger to a team and that confidence and that arrogance and brashness. And I think with him really being left off the roster, not even just benched, not able to play, he was just left off the roster. I think that really
yeah.
changed the mood for that Minnesota Twins team, and it really sucks because they were a fun team to watch. But
Yeah, they had a good year, and this is gonna really diminish that good year. But
yeah,
we can move on now to the what we believed was going to be the most exciting series in the American League wild card, but ended up
the biggest snooze
being
fest of the.
well, the game two was really fun, but it was an entertaining game too, but it ended up really not being that competitive of a series. The Yankees and the Indians. The Indians had Shane Bieber pitching in game one, which we discussed beforehand. He's kind of, I'm assuming, both of our picks to have won the American League Cy Young. And he got absolutely rocked in game one by the Yankees lineup. I mean, Judge hit a 2-run homer in the first inning, and I don't think, and he does have a lack of postseason experience, and he never settled in after that. He looked really rough. He gave up a lot of hard contact. He walked a few guys, which is very uncharacteristic of Shane Bieber. Um, he's a guy that this year was had one of the best strikeout to walk ratios ever, and he had a really rough go of it. Garrett Cole looked like you would think Garrett Cole would look, but the Yankees just absolutely obliterated the Indians in game one, and then game two was a very very entertaining game in which The lead was traded several times. The wind was blowing like 40 miles an hour at the start of that game too. I don't know if you saw that, but um, it was crazy, and the ball was flying out, and there was a lot of, I mean, a lot of crazy good defensive plays in that game. You saw like Gio Urshela saved that game with the diving play that he turned into a double play. And I mean, the Yankees were able to, come out on top with their depth in their lineup. We talked about how they were getting a lot of their players back, and those players that they got back, Stanton hit 2 home runs in the series. Those players they got back really shined in the series.
Yeah, Bieber 4 2/3 for Bieber gave up 9 hits and 7 earned runs.
Yeah,
Like
it was
that
a rough outing for him.
that home run to Judge was a fastball right down the middle. You just can't make pitches like that. He did not look sharp. I know I'm kind of jumping backwards to that, but that's his worst start, I would say, probably of his career. And you would not have expected that with the year he had. So
Yeah,
that was a very big turning point in the series. In game two, it was even raining. I don't even think they should have started that game. At that point, they probably should have just postponed it to the next day, like
yeah.
they did with the Cubs and
Yeah, they
Marlins game.
started the game on, and then they played the first inning, and then they all of a sudden had to postpone or had to delay the game because of rain in the first inning. So it really sucked for the teams because their starting pitchers went out there, and they, got all warmed up, and they started pitching, and then they had to take a 45-minute break, and that can really throw off a pitcher in a series, especially in the postseason like that when it's such an intense series. So
Well, yeah,
that was
like
a bummer.
after you said that after that first inning, they came back out, and in 4 innings, Tanaka ended up giving up 6 runs, and you look over at Carrasco, and in 3 innings, he ended up giving up 4 runs.
Yeah,
You know,
so that
it's
was
it just shows. I mean, that Cleveland bullpen really did let him down.
yeah,
Carnachat gave up a run. Matten gave up a run. McKenzie gave up 2 runs.
yeah,
Hand blew the save. I mean, the
yeah,
Indians had the lead late, and Hand blew the save, gave up 2 runs, and then
yeah.
they brought in Quantrill after, but it was too late at that point.
So,
But that Yankees lineup, I mean, it's looked very feared. We
they
even on
scored
our
a
last
lot of runs in this series.
yeah, on our last episode, we said, they're starting to get everybody back. Will the timing be right? Judge and Stanton had just come back off injuries. Gary's really struggled. Um, they've been carried by LeMahieu and Voit in this year, but the entire lineup was hitting, and it honestly, that's what if the Yankees lineup can hit like that, they are going to be very, very scary.
For sure. So
Uh, well, let's go ahead and move on to probably the series that had the best pitching in it. I mean, I think we both kind of saw that coming,
yeah,
and that's going to be the Atlanta Braves versus the Cincinnati Reds. That one had a historic performance by Trevor Bauer in the start. I believe he was the first guy ever in the postseason to throw at least 7 innings with more or I think it was with 12 strikeouts and no walks.
yeah,
Um,
and I think it had to be shutout innings too.
yeah, shutout innings. And he dominated when he was in there. But Max Fried really matched him basically pitch for pitch. Fried pitched 7 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts. There was a little Twitter back and forth between Bauer and Ronald Acuna after Bauer does this thing when he strikes somebody out or whatever. He does like a little Conor McGregor strut. It's very fun to watch. Got to have a pitcher that has a little bit emotional. Batters show their bat flips and stuff. But Acuna posted this picture of Bauer or of McGregor doing a little walk and says like "Go home" or something.
Yeah,
So it's a little back and forth. It's been very fun.
yeah,
I don't understand how people like love bat flips and they love the batter showing emotion, but when pitchers show emotion, they're like, "Oh, we can't have that." It's awesome. It's great.
yeah. I thought it was fun. That was a good series. Trevor Bauer did look very good. I mean, the big story of this series though is the Reds offense really struggling, and the Braves having Ian Anderson come out and throw the game he threw. I think it's the big series. Trevor Bauer was awesome in game one. Luis Castillo was really good. Maybe not quite as good, but really good in game two. But if you look at game one and the Braves 13 shutout innings from the Braves pitching, and 12 shutout innings from the Reds pitching until the bottom of the 13th, and Freddie Freeman got a walk-off single. Um, that was it was super impressive pitching. One thing that really affected the teams in this series is that at SunTrust Park they haven't there are and there was really an effect in the Cubs Marlins series too. They played all day games, and the shadows there were really a bother for the hitters. It really hurt both teams, I think, because the Braves don't play too many home games during the day because of traffic concerns typically. So they really don't, except on Sundays. They really don't play much at home during the day, so that's something that they're not used to. I mean, they're obviously more used to playing day games at SunTrust than other teams, but it's still something that's not like a everyday thing for them. And then the Reds obviously haven't played many day games at SunTrust. I think they might have played one last year, but the sun was out and there was a lot of glare, and the shadows, especially in Game One, really affected the players in that game. So, some of the lack of offense might have been had some effect from that. But I mean, you look at the pitching, and Ian Anderson in Game Two was, as a Braves fan, I was super proud of how he came out and pitched. And I mean, he lost his command just a little bit. I think it was the second inning, might have been the third inning, where he walked a couple guys. But other than that, he was in control. He was poised, and that was the thing that I was the most worried about. That's why I picked the Reds, just because the Braves had the potential to have two rookie starters throw in this game. I mean, in the series, and um, Ian Anderson didn't look like a rookie. He looked like the guy that had been pitching in the regular season, that had stepped in, and he looks like a potential future ace. And the Braves did just enough offensively, especially in Game Two. Hit a couple home runs late in the game that put the game away. And the Braves got a little bit of a, I keep saying monkey off the back. That's been a common theme for some of these playoff teams. The Braves had not won a playoff series in 19 years. They had lost, I believe, their last 10 playoff series, if you include wild card series that they played once, the against the Cardinals in the infield fly game. So you go back and you look at a lot of those series, the Braves had opportunities to win them. They've had some game fives, but they haven't gotten it done. And this year they got it done in this wild card series, and that's something I think is going to really help their confidence going forward. It's not there's not quite as much of, oh great, here we go again with this team now. And but like I say, the pitching just tremendous. I believe it was the first time ever, or it was the most scoreless innings in a row ever from a pitching staff, or on the other side, you look at the most scoreless innings for an offense, which is a bad record to have. But in the postseason, which would have been 20, I think 23 innings. They played 13. He gave it 22 innings. They had 22 scoreless innings from the Reds. The Reds didn't score a single run in the series, and I thought that was extremely impressive, especially with the Braves question mark being in that pitching staff.
Yeah, they for the Reds offense to just go completely silent like that, it was there was no hope in this series for them once that happened. You got to, like you said, give a lot of credit to Ian Anderson for coming in that postseason for first start ever and being very fantastic. Fried, I mean, we saw this all year. There was a little bit of concern with the ankle, but he came out and looked like what Max Fried's looked like the entire season.
He's really
So,
good.
so that's very very good for the Atlanta Braves if their pitching staff's gonna look like that. But we'll go ahead and jump over to this San Diego Padres and St. Louis Cardinals series. This was probably the most fun series to watch. Just because the San Diego Padres, they bring so much emotion to the game. They bring, I don't even know how to say it. It's the epitome of let the kids play. It's
Yeah,
that's what San Diego stands for.
yeah, they have a lot of swagger.
Yeah, they came out and got punched right in the mouth early on. Was it Goldschmidt that hit the home run in the first inning?
Yeah, Goldschmidt hit a home run, and then I think Paddock gave up 4 runs in 2 innings or something. So
Well, he gave up four in the first.
yeah, 4 in the first, and then he might have given up a couple more after that, but
Yeah, so the Padres pretty much in the first 3 innings scored 6 runs. And it looked like, okay, well, here comes the postseason Cardinals, like
yeah,
we always see. They're a team that can always find some way to get into the postseason, and then just when they get there, they are fantastic. It was a real shock for Chris Paddock to start game one. for Mike Clevenger and Denelson Lamet to be left off the roster, that was a big sign that those two guys weren't healthy. And honestly, at that point, I thought maybe the Cardinals had a shot in this series because we were expecting one of those guys to at least be there. But game two, it really just turned around. I mean, I think that was the one where they hit all of those home runs. I believe they hit four. Was it in the that game? What Tatis had
Something like that.
two?
Tatis had 2, Will Myers had 2, and Machado had 1, so I think they may
Yes,
hit 5.
it was
Actually, they
five.
might have. Didn't Cronenworth hit 1 in that game too? Or was it just in game 3 that
No,
he hit 1?
he hit one in game three. I think
Yeah,
he hit like a big single in that game, if I'm
maybe,
not
maybe.
mistaken.
So
Uh,
I thought I remembered Cronenworth hitting 1, but might just be getting the game 3 one. I know he hit 1 in game 3, so I might be getting that one mixed up. But yeah, I mean, this series was super entertaining. I mean, talked about Fernando Tatis Jr. really struggled in game 1, and for about half of game 2, he looked lost at the plate, and then he came alive. And the Padres had their contributions from Manny Machado that they expected. But I think the biggest thing in this series was the other contributions they got. Will Myers is a guy that's been around for a while in San Diego. And he's kind of been forgotten about a little bit with these young guys that have come in and the big free agent that they had brought in. But Will Myers hit 2 home runs in game 2 that really saved that game for them. Um, you have another guy in Eric Hosmer that's a veteran that played pretty well in this series, had a big RBI double. You have another guy in Jake Cronenworth that was my NL Rookie of the Year, that played extremely well in this series. Had a couple big hits. Had that big home run in Game 3 that put the game away. Um, but I think the big story for the Padres is that their pitching held up in Game 3. They started Craig Stammen, and it was his first start since 2010 in Game 3 of the series. And that was they played a complete bullpen game, and they were going up against Jack Flaherty, who pitched pretty well. After having a rough season, um, he pitched well in Game 3, but the Padres were able to bring out guys out of their bullpen. Luis Patino pitched pretty well. That was one that was really impressive. And obviously their bullpen, the depth of their bullpen is good. At the back end, and um, Trevor Rosenthal pitched really well and closed out his former team in Game 3, which was interesting. Struck out the side, so this was a really fun series. I thought it was entertaining. Every game was pretty interesting. With maybe Game 1 wasn't the best. Game 3, like I said, the pitching for the Padres just was fantastic. And I saw where Bob Nightingale tweeted about how the Padres used pitchers to win. So I wanted to elaborate on that just a little bit more than just saying they used pitchers to win, because I think you have to use pitchers to win. So
yeah, that very fun series. And San Diego fans were acting like they won the World Series, which shows just how
yeah,
long and deprived that they have
yeah,
been of a very successful team. So,
yeah. They need to be
well,
careful of a letdown though after that, because they're going to have to come out and they're going to have to be
well,
focused for their next series for
we
sure.
will hit on that in just a little bit.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and jump over. We're gonna quickly try and run through. I know we're rambling on here, but
Yeah,
there's a lot that happened.
yeah.
Um, let's go ahead and talk about this Miami and Cubs series. Miami 1-2 came out in the first game and uh, really took it to Kyle Hendricks after he had already pitched a really good game. I think it was in the seventh inning. He had like 100 and something pitches, and then he gave up a home run to Dickerson, a
Yes.
three-run home run to Dickerson. I think they took him out right after that, right? He didn't give
Yeah,
up
they
the
did.
home run
He
to Aguilar.
Right.
It
I
was
think
Jeffries.
Jeffers gave up the home run to
Yeah.
Aguilar, former teammate too. But
Yeah,
um,
but the big thing about this series is the Marlins pitching. Their Marlin that Alcantara and who started game two? Was it Lopez?
Sixto, no, Sixto.
Sixto, right. They looked really, really good. Sixto
Yeah.
went 5 innings of 6 strikeouts. Actually, in game two, they shut the Cubs out.
Mhm.
And then in game one, Alcantara, I believe, went 6 and 2/3,
Yeah,
if I'm
he
not
went 6 and
mistaken.
2/3 in game 1. I think that I agree with you. This was about the Marlins starting pitching and the Cubs offense. I thought the Marlins starting pitching. I didn't see too much of game 1 because the Braves game was going on at the same time, but I kind of kept up with it, obviously. But game two, I watched the whole game, and with it being on Friday after the postponement of game two, and it was the Cubs offense looked abysmal in this series. I think I'm not sure if I got the number right, but I'm pretty sure they said that Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez, and Chris Bryant combined to go 3 for 21. Is that right? It was something
Um,
really, really, really bad like that. And
yeah, they went. I know Bryant and Rizzo in game one went 0 for 4.
yeah,
Baez went 1 for 4 in that one. I'm not
yeah.
sure. Let me look into game two
I
real
thought
quick.
I had seen where a stat where the three of them went 3 for 21. It might have been a different number, but either way, um, the Cubs you're not going to win games when your three-star players like that just completely struggle. And I thought the Marlins looked good. I thought Sixto looked like the best pitcher in baseball for the first 4 innings of game two, and then wore himself out a little bit. He was hitting over 100 every pitch. He was throwing strikes. His changeup was spectacular. His slider was really good. He was in control. He struggled a little bit after that in game two, but the Cubs could never break through with runners in scoring position. They loaded the bases a couple times. Um, and that's kind of been the story for the Cubs all year. And then the bullpen for the Marlins was able to do the job. Brandon Kinsler, who was kind of a Cubs cast-off last year, closed them out in game three.
He
Uh,
struck out the side, didn't he?
Struck out the side. Yeah, he looked great. I mean, this
Yeah.
Marlins team, it was huge for them. I mean, they proved that they belong in the postseason this year and needed to be taken seriously because a lot of people thought that it was a fluke of the 60 game season, and I still don't know if they would have made it if it was a 162 game season with a normal playoff structure. But at the same time, I mean, I think they're actually a pretty good team that could have made it. That could have been an over 500 type team. They do seem to belong, and huge congrats to the Marlins and after the rebuild and the ownership changes and stuff that they've gone through on winning that series. That's huge for them. So
Yeah. So that, and like you said in game two, that's postseason uh, nerves and what's the word I'm looking for?
yeah,
Adrenaline. The postseason adrenaline coming out in Sixto.
oh yeah,
Like that's what we talk about. You get the postseason experience. That just shows right there. I mean, he
yep,
looked great, but he wore himself out really fast. Um, the Marlins have never lost a postseason series. Just
yep,
saying.
7-0,
So that's something to watch out for.
yep,
Um, but another big injury that we need to talk about in this series was that Starling Marte got his left pinky broken. Uh,
yes,
and that's a big, big thing because that's his bottom hand on the bat, and that pinky sits right there. So anytime that bat moves or swivels or anything, it hits against that pinky. And he actually did not start in game two. He was only going to be a defensive replacement, like in the last inning. But even at that point, he could hardly put on a glove because that's also his glove hand. So that's going to be a potential development to watch going into this
yeah.
next series.
He's gonna try to play through it, I think, but it's gonna be tough.
It's all going to be pain management.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and quickly move on to this LA Dodgers versus Brewers series.
We can be quick with this one because this series was quick and was over very quickly.
LA dominated. That's pretty much what you need to know. Bruce Sutter walked 5 guys in the first, in his start in game one. He had walked
Yeah,
5 guys all year long. Dodgers are just very patient. They make you make their pitch that they want to hit. They hardly chase out of the zone, and they pretty much just proved that. Brandon Woodruff looked really good in game two until he didn't. I mean, they just worked that pitch count up and made him throw enough pitches to where they could finally just,
they
I
wore him
forgot
down.
who hit it. The main was it Seager? No, it wasn't Seager in that one. It was Betts. Mookie hit the RBI
Hit a
double.
double down the line. Yeah.
Yeah, he hit the RBI double in that one. And that in game two, the big thing is Clayton Kershaw. Um,
Oh yeah, he
for
was spectacular.
everybody that says postseason Kershaw, please shut up. He went 8 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, but that walk was in the last inning. He had 13 strikeouts. This was a vintage Clayton Kershaw outing. Um, he was just fantastic. Honestly, he probably could have gone the entire game, but At that point, they just were like, "Hey, come out." I mean, he was at 93 pitches, so he could have easily taken the last inning. But with them just having a 3-run lead, they said, "Let's just move it on to the bullpen and just close this deal out." And they did. It was
Yeah.
Milwaukee was not a good team. They were under 500. I think we all expected the Dodgers to just roll, and they did. So
Yeah,
not much else really needs to be said about that series.
right. A couple interesting nuggets in that series that maybe moving forward. The Brewers came in with some injuries too. We had obviously Corbin Burns. We knew was going to be out after going down on the DL in the last or in the IL in the last 2 weeks of the season. But Devin Williams, who was the Brewers' really good rookie that was pitching out of the pen most of the year, he went down right before the series started with an arm issue and wasn't available. So that hurt them a lot. And then I thought that Christian Yelich looked really lost at the plate in the series. I mean, give some credit to the Dodgers pitching on a lot of that, but at the same time, he was swinging at pitches that were nowhere near the zone and didn't start in the zone, and he was just guessing the whole time, trying to do too much. So I thought that was really we said beforehand that they needed MVP Yelich to come through for them to have a chance in the series, and he didn't. And then the one thing that I wanted to talk about though is that and I want to get your thought on this real quick because we need to move on here soon. But I saw where Graterol pitched the ninth in the closeout game, whereas Kenley Jansen was, I don't know if he was unavailable or if that might be a sign moving forward because Kenley Jansen in game one, he got the job done, but he did not look good. His velocity was down, his control wasn't there, and the Brewers were chasing and being really over aggressive at the plate but they've also put the bat on the ball pretty well in that inning and got a little bit unlucky. So I don't know what your thoughts are on Jansen going forward because he did not look like himself in game one.
I still have the utmost confidence in Kenley Jansen closing out a game. He's looked really, really good this year outside of the really bad outing against Houston. Um, and going back, Dave Roberts even said like right after the game, like, "Hey, maybe we'll see." But he went back and watched the film, and he said Jansen's stuff actually looked like it was. He just wasn't locating it. But the pitches still had all the right movements to it.
Yeah,
Um, and he said Jansen was available in game two, but he wanted to stay away from him because of, I think he threw like 24, 25 pitches in
yeah.
that
It
game
was
one.
game two was I think it was like a 3 or 4 run game. So
Yeah, it was 3-0. He said Jansen would be available. I expect if it was like a 1-run game, then Jansen would be in there.
probably,
But after Kershaw had just dominated, Milwaukee's probably down on himself. I mean, to bring in a guy like Brewstar in that situation, I don't just think that's Dave Roberts just getting his young guy some confidence in the
yeah,
postseason.
gotcha.
I still think Kenley Jansen's the closer, and I think he's still one of the best closers in baseball. I mean, if you watch this stuff a lot this year, it still looks really, really good. I don't know what the velocity was, but that could just be him getting off kilter.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a big guy that he has to have everything synced up to
Yeah,
have the velocity.
that's what they were saying. It might have been a little bit of that. So, but let's quickly let's talk about the DS. I know we're probably going to be running just a little bit long on this episode, but we definitely need to talk a lot about the division series here. We could talk about the first series are going to be the American League series, and they will be played starting tomorrow. We're going to have the Rays and the Yankees is the first series, so we'll talk about. So the Yankees, I mean the Rays are the 1 seed, and the Yankees were the 4 seed or the 5 seed. I believe they were the five, but this is going to be interesting. I'm excited. Rays have that great starting pitching with Snell and Glasnow and Morton. The Yankees have a fantastic starter in Garrett Cole, um, and the Yankees have that elite lineup, and both teams have good bullpens. So I think this is gonna be entertaining. One. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's going to be entertaining too. And one thing we need to mention about the postseason moving forward is that now teams are in bubbles.
Yes.
So the National League is in a bubble in Texas, and the American League is in a bubble in Southern California. So this Tampa Bay versus Yankees series will be played in San Diego's Petco Park. The Astros and A's will be played in Dodger Stadium, which is kind of ironic because Houston playing their postseason series in Los Angeles in Dodger Stadium with no fans. That's going to be very entertaining to see. Um, and then the Padres and Dodgers will be taking place at Globe Life Field in Arlington, which is the Texas Rangers home ballpark, while the Marlins and Braves are going to be in Minute Maid Park in Houston for the Astros home
Yep.
ballpark. And then I don't know where the CS. It sounds like the ALCS will be in San Diego, and the NLCS will be
Yep.
in Texas,
Yep.
and then the
It'll be
World
the new
Series.
ballpark.
Yeah, and the World Series is going to be in the new ballpark as well. So
Um,
just that little thing we need to clear up
and
there.
And one other nugget on the postseason, and this series, the NLCS will be played, and the World Series. We're not going to talk too much about in this episode, but they are going to allow, I believe it was 11,500 fans into those games too.
Yeah,
Um, so that'll be really good to see fans back in the seats. But this Rays Yankee series, I think, is going to be very interesting. These are our 5 game series in the NLDS and the ALDS. But the change this year, the other change is there are no off days.
yeah,
So you don't have because you don't have travel days. So the Yankees and the Rays, how does that affect them? I think it affects the Yankees a lot more than it does the Rays because the Rays have more starting pitching depth.
yeah.
And I think starting pitching depth is going to be a big factor here moving forward.
Well, the big thing is like we talked about for the wild card series is bullpen games. Well,
Yep,
if you're playing 5 days in a row, you can't have bullpen games. So you're
yep,
gonna have to do starters. I mean, you can have a bullpen game in a 5 game series, but you can't have three. Um, or even I mean two is even stretching it, depending on who your pitching staff is and how many innings you're going to be trying to get out of like an opener or a long man or something. But I mean the game one Cole Snell, if it lives up to the hype, which we talked about the whole Bieber one, but this could be a very fantastic pitching matchup. And the funny thing is in all these division series, everybody's playing division opponents. So the Rays are playing the Yankees, who they played 10 times during the regular season, and the Rays beat them 8 out of 12 times. Now, that is with the Yankees missing a lot of their offensive help as well. So it's gonna be pretty fun to see this lineup go against a Snell, against a Morton, against a Glass. Now it's gonna be whoever can make the Rays pitching staff against the New York Yankees lineup is gonna be the deciding factor in this series. Uh, because if the Yankees are hitting, then I mean their lineup's the
they're going to be
best
tough to
lineup.
beat. Yeah,
Yeah, their line is probably the best lineup in baseball, if not right there closely behind another team. Whereas you look at the Tampa Bay's pitching staff, you can say they're probably the best pitching staff in the majors. If not, then they're really close behind whoever you pick above them. So that's going to be a very fascinating series to watch from that. Is it the pitching or the hitting that's going to succeed?
right. I think if you look at this series, and we'll make our predictions here in a second, but I agree with you. I think I- one thing that is going to be important is if the Rays are able to um, mix and match their lineup enough to put up enough runs, because I do think the Yankees will score some, but I think the Rays are, they're gonna have to have the same contributions they had in the first series from guys like Manny Margot and Hunter Renfroe that have struggled some this year. So we'll see what happens with that. It'll be an entertaining series for sure. I think my prediction is going to be the Rays in 5. Um, but that's a really low confidence. I think I could very easily see the Yankees win this series. So
I man, I want to go with the Rays, but something's telling me to go with the Yankees. Um, so I'm gonna go with the Yankees in 4.
okay. And I can
Um,
definitely see that. I mean, the Yankees need to win Game One, and if they win Game One, that pressure might shift to the Rays
it
because
might,
the Yankees need to win Garrett Cole's start. So
yeah. Well, let's go ahead and jump over to the A's and Astros. Another division series we've talked about. Very different A's team than played the Astros in the regular season, though. But the A's did beat them 7 out of the 10 times. Man, in this series, I hate to say it, but I think you have to go Astros. I mean, this is also going to be one of those against the Astros lineup versus the A's pitching, because the Astros pitching, I mean, if they pitch the way they did in Minnesota, then this is no doubter. But if they pitch the way they pitched all year against the struggling Oakland A's lineup, it's going to come down to that. Um, but I'm always going to take the team in situations like this that probably has the best lineup against a poor pitching staff. So I'm going to go with the Astros, and I'm going to say they're going to do it in five.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting series too. I think the A's are gonna have a much better starting pitching rotation than people are kind of expecting in this series. I think that Mania will be able to pitch and he's going to be fully rested, which is important. You're going to have, I think Frankie Montas will actually get the start in the series. And then I think Luzardo is going to pitch well in this series. He looked, like I said, his stuff looked really good in the wild card series, and he got that little bit of experience under his belt in the postseason in this pressure packed um, season. So I think you could see. I think the A's are actually going to take the series. I don't especially believe in the Astros lineup and and their pitching staff either. I mean, I think a lot of the series against the Twins was the Twins missing opportunities and having some injuries and struggling in that way. Um, I think the A's are going to take this one in. I think the A's are going to take this one in five. I think it's going to be a close series. I think the Astros take a couple games, but the A's have had their number this year. They've went 7-3 against them. This is also a kind of a series where these teams have had some bad blood this year. With the Ramon Laureano situation. And these are division rivals. So this will be an very entertaining series. As in all of these division series, by the way, are division rivals facing off against each other, which is very, very strange and it's very interesting. Um, but I'm excited for this one. But I do think the A's win in 5 games. So
Well, we'll go ahead and jump over to the National League and start with the Braves and Marlins series. Uh, this one, the Braves beat the Marlins 6 out of the 10 times they played this season. It's going to be a battle of the pitching staffs, really, is what I think. Is are those rookies for Atlanta going to hold up? But at the same time, we just talked about the postseason adrenaline for guys like Sixto and Alcantara and Pablo Lopez. I mean, if those three guys can pitch really well, you only need to win 3 games, but you're going to have to beat a Max Fried and an Ian Anderson with your lineup. And if you're missing Starling Marte, who's probably one of your biggest pieces in that, how's that all going to work out? I don't know how you go against the Braves in this series just because they have the guys like Ronald Acuna and Freddie Freeman and Adam Duvall. But something in me is telling me to go with the Marlins. And I don't know why, but I'm going to listen to it and I'm probably going to look back at this and say that I am not smart. But I'm going to go with the Marlins in 4.
yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at this series, the Marlins that was a great story beating the Cubs, but I do think that this is when it comes to an end for them. This has been a team that has been fun to watch. They've done really well throughout the regular season. But way above expectations. But the Braves have hit these starters these young starters for the Marlins have hit them very, very well. In fact, their last game against Sixto Sanchez, they put up 7 runs against them, I believe, 6 or 7 runs in like 3 innings. Um, this is a series where the Braves have some confidence now in this postseason because of finally getting that postseason series win that they've needed for a long time. Doing it against a pretty good team. And I really don't think the Marlins are going to be able to put up enough offense against the top 2 pitchers for the Braves. I think you'll see. I think you'll see. Honestly, I don't think this series is going to be that close. Um, I could see the Marlins maybe winning a game here, but with the Braves bullpen being as good as it is, the Braves lineup is going to put up. I think the Braves lineup is going to come alive and put up a lot of runs in the series. Um, I think the Braves win this series in 3 or 4 games. So um, it's a great story for the Marlins to be here, but I think they're I think this season I think their magic's going to run out here. I like this Marlins team too. I think they're underrated nationally. I think there's a lot of good players on this team that were kind of castaways, but I definitely am going with the Braves here, and I'm going with them to dominate the series.
Well, let's go ahead and jump on to our last series and wrap this episode up. That's going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers versus San Diego Padres. Um, they played 10 times as well, and LA won 6 of those 10 matchups. This is really going to be the how the Dodgers pitching handles against the young San Diego Padres lineup.
Yep.
Um, they are they've had some bad blood this year a little bit. Trent Grisham really has been kind of behind that, so this is going to be a big series for him. It man, I'm gonna go with the Dodgers, obviously as a Dodgers fan, but I feel like they kind of after that last series when Grisham kind of pimped a home run off of Kershaw, which good for him, great for him. But the Dodgers kind of took a little bit of offense to that, and I think it was just because of they think that Kershaw deserves a little bit more respect. But I mean, you hit a home run off Kershaw. I mean, be happy about it. But I don't know. What's Walker Bueller's blister going to look like? It looked pretty nasty, but he still looked really good. Um, Kershaw, is he going to be postseason Kershaw? I know I hate to say that, but or is he going to be the Kershaw that we saw against the Brewers? So Mookie's looked really good. Seager's looked really good. Bellinger's starting to kind of figure it out. Muncie's really struggled, but something's telling me Dodgers in a sweep.
Um, I like the Dodgers in this series. The Padres, it's going to be interesting for the Padres. There's so many variables in the series because you're missing your top two pitchers in the wild card. You're able to get through it. It does sound like Clevenger is probably going to pitch in this series. I don't think he'll pitch game one, but he threw the other day and it went really well. And I think he was supposed to be throwing a bullpen like yesterday maybe, and they were expecting to have him in some form in this series. I'm not sure about Lamette. I know he threw some. I think a lot of it depends on if those starters are back. Really, if the Padres are going to be able to hang around in the series.
Well,
They're a young, exciting team.
and
Um,
the other factor is that the way they're talking about Clevenger, they're just saying that we're not sure if he's going to be able to pitch. They're not even saying start.
Right,
So
and that's
he
what I'm
might,
saying. That they might throw him. He might be a guy. They might be able to bring him in to throw 3 or 4 innings in a game rather than throw a full start. And same with
yeah.
Lamette. Like that's kind of what I was thinking is if they're able to bring him out there to throw 3 innings, that's a huge boost. That's a huge savior for their bullpen. That's a big deal. So, you've still got a couple guys that I think Zach Davies can I know he had a bad start in the wild card round, but I mean he still had a pretty good year. I don't think that Paddock's going to be that great if they have to go to him. He's really struggled this year, but um, you know Garrett Richards maybe, and I think you're going to see another bullpen game somewhere in there. So um, we'll see what happens with Clevenger and Lamette. That would be a really bummer for the Padres. Having come this far and then having those both of their two really good pitchers out. Um, I think that's going to be the factor in this series. If those guys are pitching, I think the Padres have a real chance. If they're not, I don't really think the Padres have too much of a chance. I think the Dodgers are going to win this series in 4 games. I think the Padres are able to manage one win, probably game three, off of a starter that's not Kershaw or Bueller. But I think it all depends on health because if Bueller's blister is a factor, and the Padres are able to win game one because Bueller's not himself. And then, you have Lamette or Clevenger able to pitch or able to start a game, even game two or game three, then you could end up seeing the Padres going up in this series. And if the Padres go up in this series, there's all bets are off. When it gets to when you get to clinching games, all bets are off. So I think you could definitely see the Padres hang around and win in this series if they're able to stay healthy or get healthy. But I'm going to have to go with the Dodgers. Their lineup's deeper. Their bullpen is good. I think their starting rotation's good. Um, so I mean, they just got so much. They just got more depth. They're not starting, you know. Jerks and Profar in left field. I mean,
Right.
it's they got more depth. They've got guys that can come off the bench and hit. They've got like anytime you've got AJ Pollock sitting on the bench, I mean you're gonna end up having pretty good guys out there. So um, it's I think this is going to be the Dodgers, in this series. But of course, you never know. Any of these series, it's postseason. You only have to win 3 games. Any of these series can go either way. It's got to be an exciting wild card round. I'm super pumped up for it. I mean, a division round. I'm super pumped up for it. I'm ready to go. I know tomorrow the AL starts. Um, so I'm ready for it. I can't wait.
Yeah, I am excited as well. Just noting that the even if game fives are necessary, this round of the playoffs will be done by Saturday, the October 10th. The game fives for the NLDSs are both on that day. The ALCS actually starts a week from today.
Yes.
So by the time we don't know the start time on that because we don't know the teams and all that stuff, but by the time that we probably record our next episode, the ALCS would have been started already.
Yeah, it'll
Um,
probably be a night game.
it
It'll be in its own on its
it
own on
It
Sunday. So
should be. It should be. So we might try and record a day
yeah,
earlier and let you guys know. But if you guys want like up to date information as series are happening or stuff, be sure to follow our Twitter account. We are both on it and updating as much as we can, and that's at Batflip Podcast on Twitter. Go give us a follow there. We try and give you as much information about even games while they're happening or upcoming games or just any information that we find out, rosters, all that stuff. We put all of that over there since we can't come to you guys with a podcast every single day.
yeah, for sure. And I've been trying real hard to update that. Update everybody on the games and give a little bit of feedback and analysis on the games as we go. On that Twitter account. You can also follow us both on our personal Twitter accounts. I'm at Matt Arcara on Twitter, and Damien's at the Real D Boy 12 on Twitter, and we can we definitely are tweeting about baseball a lot. You might see some really, really, really bad Auburn football takes from mine. You might see some bad racing takes from Damien's. So um, we'll
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see, but yeah, that'll be fun. It's gonna be a fun wild card or divisional series. We're moving right along in this postseason. We only got 8 teams left, and we're gonna be down to just 4 teams by the time we record our next episode. And at that point, we'll be in the real postseason. We'll be in the championship series and playing for spots in the World Series at that point. So it'll be a big. This is a big week. You're going to see some really competitive teams, some really good stuff. I do wish they were going to have fans this week because fans just make such a big difference in baseball, especially in the postseason, though. And that's a bummer that they're. But I'm very glad that they're going to end up eventually having fans at some of these games, and um, we're excited. We're ready to go.
Yep. So thank you guys for tuning in to episode 9 of the Batflip podcast. We really appreciate all your guys' support. As always, you can leave us likes or feedback through reviews on our Apple and Spotify, and we'll make sure to get to those. And if you guys have any questions, you guys can either put them there or on our Twitters like we already gave you. So thank you guys again, and we will see you guys next episode.